is the way where your boxes are all part of one big piece, like that big rectangle. They're just different zones that you're zoning into on that same piece.
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay,
So I'm
good.
going to be creating a giant composition here.
Yes.
And then once I actually get my shot within my scene, it's going to be much tighter when I'm actually moving the camera through the space.
Okay. So like say for my piece, if I were to copy the same kind of movement that you're doing, I would start in the right hand corner, like where the grass is, and then move over and then up rather than making 3 copies of my canvas and doing 3 different scenes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You want one big
Okay,
canvas painting on.
perfect. And I can still have it as one canvas for when I enter it into After Effects, or just the separate layers.
That's right.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the separate layers. So again, this is why within that first video, I was doing all that finagling to be able to move from the canvas shape that we paint on back down into the 1920
Yes.
by 1080 shot scale. Trying to open something up right now that's going to take a second to download. But let's see if we everything's just nice and frozen. Give it a moment. Anywho, so it's the one of the previous scenes that I did for this, which is called Rexar Mountain. And I believe within the module overview, it shows you all the different pieces. It shows you it gives you a link to the actual video of what it looks like inside the shot versus what the entire composition looked like. And yeah, that's been shared out online for you to go through and look at.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Got to twiddle our thumbs for a second while it decides if it's going to load or unload. I haven't turned this computer on in quite some time, so it's got some catching up to do when it comes to downloading files from the internet. Yeah, but anywho, this is a little preview of what's coming up after this and where she fits into their family dynamic. Anywho, so this is the Rexar Mountain image that I was talking about. Now, when we actually look at this thing, let me go in, and now that we've got it open, I'm going to create red stroke, no fill, how the camera movement worked within Rexar Mountain. Let's grab my shape, increase the stroke width. So now we can see it. So I've got this giant scene painted here. But when I actually animated it, the first thing that you see within the animation is this little cockpit area down here. So you don't get to see all of Rexar Mountain. This is the idea that as an artist and as a creative, you've got to have some vaudeville in you. You've got to have some showmanship. You've got to think about your audience, even when it comes to backgrounds and environments for animation or any type of performance that you're putting on a screen. And this is absolutely true, that backgrounds and environments are you're setting the stage. You're inviting the audience in. Think about, as a little kid, how much we all loved pop-up books. And the reason why we loved pop-up books is because as you turn the page, you never know what little tab is going to happen or what kind of reveal is going to occur. And as an environment artist, you've got that same power and capacity with your audience. So you can go through and surprise them with what it is that they're going to see and where it is that they're going to go. And this is one of the greatest strengths that you as an artist have, is you're in control of the narrative speed and pace and how your audience gets brought into this world. So because I know I've got this awesome dinosaur head mountain spaceship thing with all these details on it, for my short little video, do not want to bring my audience in there. I want to sort of train them and introduce them to the world in a really small way. I know that my final shot is going to be up here, but at first, I want to just leave them right here so they have a moment to be able to appreciate the spaceship, that the spaceship is getting worked on. Then all of a sudden, I'm going to pan the camera over to the left. It moves over. If I had more time, I would make like another one of these little shuttle things fly down in front of the camera just to give the piece a little bit more movement. But then from there, the camera moves up and over, and it sort of starts from this point to go over on a diagonal following that line. And the spaceship comes in and it lands, and there's some smoke effects. And all of a sudden, as we pan up, we actually get to see, Rexar Mountain in all his glory. And the camera moves up to the top left to be able to end the scene. But that's what I'm talking about here when it comes to bringing your audience into the environment and into the background in a fun and interesting way. So within my shot, I want to take them across this rooftop at first, bring them across the cityscape, and then over here on the left-hand side, that's where I want the construction to be. If you remember, this entire project for me is all about the construction cranes and showing the progress and the upward momentum within a cityscape is what I'm really trying to show off and describe to the viewers within this scene. So in the same way that I just went through and explained Rexar Mountain, we are going to see the same thing happen and occur within this shot. So it's going to move over to the left across the cityscape. We're going to see the building that's being constructed. And then as we move up, we get into the city cranes that we're going to show all across the top of the shot and across the top of the scene. So now the next step for me is, keep in mind, I want to, so I've got this shot back here, which I can likely raise it up to just about here. I think that's plenty of space. And I want to extend that shot on over. I've got my buildings in different regions, or I kind of want to break my buildings up a little bit like this into pieces and sections. I think the first thing that I need to do, though, is go ahead, now that I've got a sense of what my full scene is going to be, to extend this stuff out. And oh man, this is the sad part. You can be the best sketch artist in the entire world on a sheet of paper, but when you bring these things into digital, they start to have some issues. So if I'm going to stick to my guns and hold on to my sketch, I probably need to clean it up a little bit and erase some stuff out just so that it reads a little bit cleaner. You can still see that we've got quite a bit of noise that's going on inside of this sketch, some things that are going to bother me. Get off my fuzzy brush, hard round. Now I can really cook. So up until this point in this course, or in these lessons, I've been drawing from my laptop. And that's, it's good. It works great. I'm lucky to be able to have it. But now I've actually got my whole Wacom tablet, or my computer screen. So now I can really start cooking for you guys on these last two projects. It feels like to me the difference between, driving like a budget rental car versus like having like a Porsche at your disposal, like having this Wacom screen and the screens that they provide for you at the campus. Oh man, it feels like having a Ferrari that I'm working with. It's really, really nice. So you should see my rendering and speed increase quite a bit on these next two projects. We're going to finish strong, and I hope that you're ready to finish this semester strong as well. The end is somewhat in sight. We're almost there. These are just from my starting sketch. Get this out of there as well. Cool. Zoom out. So that's all feeling pretty good to me. Yeah, let's continue on with this the cityscape. We've got a lot of real estate to be able to cover here. I could, so we've got those two. All right, I've got it. So what I need to do is I'm going to increase the size of this stuff. So we're still panning up, but we're going to increase the size of all that a little bit so that I don't have to draw quite as much to be able to get out of this one screen render and to get through the rest of the drawing, get on to the rest of this thing. All right, so make sure that I got my smoothing turned on. We're at 20, 25% today. I'm using my hard round brush. Click window brush settings. I want to make sure that my pin pressure is turned on. Let's turn the transfer off, shape dynamics, pin pressure. Come on, buddy. And let's turn this guy off. There it goes. So let's continue on down. That feels good to me. So one of the important things for me on this project is to continue to all right, what's the total size of this building? To continue to try and warp my shapes as much as I can. So this has got, you see within the brick building, I'm giving it, or the brick chimney, I'm giving it a little bit of a twist, which looks nice. I've got, you know, some oblong round shapes. Nothing is quite straight within my rooftop scene. It's really important to me. There we go. And yeah, I guess we can make this one come forward here. That'll work for me. Just to be able to give it some kind of end. And I've got a bunch of reference images that I downloaded of rooftops or construction buildings. And building cranes. So I'm going to open that up in just a moment here. That was a good line. There we go. Don't forget about all those little details, you guys. Those things that you might not think of in your shots and within your scenes. As you start to use your reference images for these environments, there is a whole lot more detail to this stuff than you might originally think. So there's all kinds of wires and exposed things within your shots. Bob Ross style. Almost becomes like automatic drawing after a while once you do it enough times. So I want to, you know, if you got the opportunity to do, this is one of the things too, right? I don't want to see you guys going in and doing just 1,000 little brick patterns absolutely everywhere. We don't need to see that. Nobody wants to look at this thing, because once you add all those thousands of brick lines onto these shots, it becomes really heavy and just sort of difficult to be able to look at and appreciate. So we're giving the impression of these lines so that the human eye still has some room to be able to breathe. All right, so here's all my brick lines. One good way to think about this, if you're wondering where to put these brick shapes, is again, just like so many other things that we've seen us do when it comes to the ambient occlusion, build out of these shadows. So think about where your shadow areas are going to be, and you can start with more detail right around those spaces. And again, we've established so much of where these bricks are going to be at. We don't have to do them absolutely everywhere. So that feels a little bit funky to me on this curve. Ah, man. So we can give our bricks just a little bit more texture to them. There we go. That'll do a lot to help us along the way. Cool. So there goes our building moving forward. It's a little bit funky. So let's see if I can't grab some of this here. edit, transform, and distort. There we go. Edit, transform, and warp. There it goes. So we've got a little bit of a new position for this thing. It's sort of pushing down around the chair, but let's see what it looked like before. That's where it was before. A little bit funky. So edit, redo, free transform. And now we're getting more of a flat top to this roof, which feels a little bit more accurate to me for where it is that we're going and heading with this. But let's just at the bottom here, give it just a little bit more interest. I don't want to be my fuzzy brush. Let's use the hard brush. And let's do like a, I'm going to hold down the shift button. Some kind of like, I don't know, pipe or something that's going off the edge of this roof. And we're going to open this up. Again, I'm going to use my holding down shift to be able to get a straight line. And I'm just looking for something to be able to fill this space. Just to break up the monotony of what's going on there. I've got a lot of empty area right in this little section. And so what I want to do with my big empty area there is just break it up. You know, it's good to give the viewer some visual breathing room. But without that there, it's going to feel like it's missing and a little bit empty. So let's give this thing a split right here, just to give it a little bit more interest. That all is working pretty well for me. Let's go in and leave that line the way that it is, and then connect this stuff over the side. So maybe we could do, I don't know, something else off on the edge here. Maybe it's got a little bit of a control panel. And behind the control panel, we've got some wiring. It's going to open up. There we go. I really am just making this stuff up as we go along, so it's very much automatic drawing that I'm working on tonight. However, I've done quite a few of these backgrounds before. If you have not already, I'd recommend checking out my Instagram to see some previous examples of these projects. There's one where I did this like London city shot for the digital illustration course. No, wait, it was environments for animation course. And it's the project that we're not doing within this class in the online format. But, and I did this like crazy London cityscape at night. And the city has got so much detail. It is supposed to be in like a steampunk style. So I ended up, I was supposed to be doing the illusion of detail, not too much of it. I totally got carried away, did entirely too much detail on this city scene. But what it ended up doing was really kind of programming my head in a big way on how to be able to fill in a bunch of cityscapes. Let's see here. So over here on the left-hand side, you can see I'm starting to establish that space between the bricks. That's something I want to include in here. Space between. Space between the bricks. There we go. That's just the little detail that we needed here to make this feel more complete. I like it. All right. Nice. So let's zoom out, have a look. That's starting to look good so far. We don't really need to show the entrance for the roof. We've got some dirt and stuff that's starting to occur up here. Let's get some more old pieces of trash on this roof as well. Change the space in a pretty big way. So what other kind of pieces of trash might be up on this roof from back in the day? Maybe some old paint cans. I don't think anyone would really set up a tent up here. I like the idea of having the one little chair with some bottles thrown around it. Maybe a few more bottles. And I'm just trying to tell the story of this space, right? This is something we keep on talking about within this class, is figuring out a narrative. So if I've got this rooftop space, we've got them hanging their clothes out to dry. What else can I do to be able to tell the story? So what else might someone be doing? A rooftop cone, more bottles. That's sort of boring. Paint cans. I guess that works. Yeah. Help us break up some of this space right around here in sort of a good way. Give us a little bit more excuse to have some color. So you notice with these discs, each time I'm starting off with the top of them and working my way down. All right, so those are going to be my two little cans of paint, my Campbell's soup cans. And then let's not forget to make some of the paint that's actually fallen over so your audience knows instantly what these are. This one can have a little bit more in the background. There we go. And give it a little bit of a label. And that's looking pretty good. So we got two paint cans there. What else could we put up on top of this roof that someone's been up to? I don't know, in New York, I guess during the COVID times, everyone was up there banging pots and stuff. So maybe we've got an old pot up on the roof from banging the pots in solidarity for all the nurses and stuff. So let's get a old pan up here on the roof.
You should put a brick as a reference to Home Alone. A pile of bricks.
Home Alone 2 or Home Alone 1?
Home Alone 2.
Okay.
You know, where he throws the bricks off the top of the roof. Because, of course, there's bricks on top of a roof.
I don't remember that section of it. I remember the lady with the birds, and that he was like staying in a church, and that Donald Trump is in that movie for some reason.
Yes. So when he's booby trapping the toy building, he goes onto the roof, and the I forgot the curly hair's name, looks up, yells at him, and there's just a pile of bricks next to him on the side, and he just I can find the scene and I'll send it to you.
Okay. No, we got a pot. Let's see here. Maybe, yeah, I mean, that's another thing to throw up here. Maybe there's some other trash that's landed on the roof, like an old filing cabinet or something. I don't know. The rooftop that I was on in Brooklyn when I lived there for a year was pretty clean. There really wasn't too much junk up there for the most part. And I don't want this to feel like an I Spy game. So I don't know. I think we're just about there to having enough stuff. And then here's another good thing to talk to you guys about. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to fill in sort of visually. I'm looking at this with my eyes squinted and zooming out and saying, okay, does that have enough visual detail in it for this part of the scene? And I think that feels pretty good. And this is a fast process. You can see how nice the air conditioning unit thing that I created over on the side ended up looking. I'm pretty happy with that. We've got a whole bunch of buildings back here on the side that I can go through and start working on now. But I want to bring in some references. Now's a good time to save this. So we've got that stuff opened up. Let's give our background a color black. I've also got my screen size figured out. Now let's start dropping in some reference photos. All right. That's going to take a second. Not too bad. All right, so what I want to do is continue to find I think we've got some, yeah, here's my building tops. This is the one that I was using for my reference before. That one's okay, it's pretty boring. Let's go in and, yeah, I also want to do some other cool things in here. So let's place this for a rooftop. Give it just a sec. I think we're going to be using the magic of editing when I upload this one online. It's taking quite a while for these things to show up. All right, just keep in mind, you guys, the things that I've asked y'all to do within this semester, within these previous projects, is not stuff that you have ever really rendered before or spent a long time. You guys are not architecture students. You're not students that stare at bricks and facades and building edges and corners and window panes all the time. So this is something that you really need to be looking at reference images for, and looking especially at how other artists and illustrators have solved for these items in the past, and what it is that they're bringing into their works and into their pieces. If you're only looking at photographs, you might have a lot of trouble trying to stylize these, and they're just going to look like really formal, sort of boring drawings. And I don't want that to happen to you guys. I want these to still feel, like Pixar, to where things are living in the space of tune, to where these objects are exaggerated. There is some interest to them. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to drop the opacity down on this guy just a little bit, so that as I'm drawing behind it, I can start to see. So one of the things, this one, look at that, got an edge over here on this building. Notice the pipe going all the way down for, I guess that's a laundry chute or something. All these windows are not completely even. They're not the same within there. I think that's a really, really nice detail. Got a nice flagpole up on top of that building. And in this one, pretty uniform for the most part. So we can start building in some of those, but I'd like for it to have just a little bit more interest. This building over here on the left-hand side can work well for the building behind the construction site. But yeah, let's use that building as sort of a reference and as a template for our next group of buildings. So one of the things I want to do here is I want to do like some big letters up on top, and I want some of the buildings to have billboards as well. That's going to be important to me within this shot. So let's go in and let's give this guy just a little bit of a crux. All right. So we've got that big laundry chute going on the side of it. I want the laundry chute to actually show up. That is totally Super Mario, is what I just drew. That's okay. There we go. That feels good, like a good spread for this building. Let's move it down a little bit lower because I want the lettering to really show up on this thing. And that'll give me some room to be able to do some buildings behind it. So within my shot, if we're starting on the left-hand side, we're really close, and I want to open up the rest of the scene here as we start to transition into a wider shot. So I think this will look pretty cool, having the building in the background move between these letters on top of this building, and it should look pretty neat. All right, so let me go back over to my reference, and then we've got that one little brick section over on the side. Let's see if we can't exaggerate that brick part out a little bit more. There we go. Again, just trying to add some tuniness, some interest to this stuff. Yeah, so we've got a facade here. And looks like it's going to come down. Let's give it one more little space before we get into the teeth marks on it. And then I'm just going to give these a little bit of a base down at the bottom. There we go. That's feeling good. Let's get my window in here. And there we're starting to get this structured out. Yeah, so I did have some spacing in between my lines. I really don't like doing windows like this. That'll work. Let's go in and check it out. Again, we've got some cool brickwork that's going on just below this guy that starts up. Let's see if we can't give him just a little bit more interest. I feel like he's sort of a boring window. And if we got the teeth marks that are happening, and we've established those, let's keep them going at the base of this guy, just before we start that other brick section. And again, I want to paint behind this stuff a little bit further down than you think you're going to need to, so that we're painting the seams so that when the parallax effect starts to occur, that we don't have edges that are starting to show up within the shots. So let's go in, and we've got round windows on the other one. Let's give this guy, yeah. This is like the perfect roof for me to put the the letters up on top of. What should they say? What should they say? I don't know. I could write my name on there, or my online name, Scatto. That could look cool. Like a little advertisement. Could write KSU up there. That could be fun as well. Give our city a name. I know what I'll do. Let's call it Porto. And we will make this a port city. All right, don't forget about the laundry chute. You notice how I'm making these all on different layers, levels. All right, so inside of here, you definitely want to detail out the brickwork just a little bit more so we get the idea that this is a different material. And it's giving us tight little spaces of detail within this thing. I don't know if I'm going to see any of this down here, but it'll give me some space to be able to move it up and down. Once I actually get it within my shot, that's looking good. Got a window we've created. Okay, so let's give this there we go. Some brackets to hold it onto the side. Cool, that's working for me. I like the sun area that they've got up here, the sun window. I think that's a cool thing to be able to include. Let's go ahead and put that in there as well. So we got plenty of room to put the letters still up here. Cleaning up my line work. There we go. And let's give it a frame here. On the sides, that feels good to me. We're not going to see it on the other side. I think that'll work. And let's finish up those windows before we get into the fun part, which is the lettering. So my line work all here is really, really hairy right now, and I don't like that. So let me go in. Oops. And what else do we have? What other kind of details over the side? Wow, that is just so much negative space. I guess there's a staircase on the inside of the building right there. But yeah, we've got these windows. So let's start cheating a little bit here. So when we are doing this, I do not expect you guys to go in and create 1,000 of the exact same window and redraw every single one of these. Some of them, you should do individually, like this one over on the left, and these sort of details. But when we've got a sequence, which inevitably with these, you should arrive at a sequence within the layers. or within the windows. I want you to do all of them. So I'm using the Shift key here to be able to get some straight lines or something that's sort of similar to straight. And so it's the shading on those windows within that reference image that that really breaks them up in a big way. And I'll still be able to shade these. A little messy. And now we've got a nice plaid in here. What I'm going to do next is let's go in and let's remove these center areas. I wish there was a quicker way to do this. There probably is. I'm sure there's some kind of cool little 10-second guy on Instagram or on TikTok. I'll show you how to be able to do this with a purple light behind his computer. It's like, don't do it like this. Do it like this. Those videos, I've seen some of them where they're like, make your boxes if you're doing like UI UX design in Illustrator or somewhere, or like if you're doing boxes for like print materials, to do them in this like wicked insane way where the guy is like pressing 20 or so different buttons to be able to get the result, and the payoff at the end just didn't quite seem worth it for me. Okay, here we go. Yeah, that'll work for the way that we're seeing these. I like it. Now, let me go in and I'm just going to detail. Make them smaller so that they're more in scale. Edit, transform, flip horizontal. Edit, transform, skew. There we go. So I'm hitting Control E to duplicate these guys. Hitting Control E to merge. And skewing again. Make this guy somewhat upright. There he goes. Now he's not standing out as much to me. The one on the left-hand side is way too close to our vent. Look at him. Edit, transform, and skew. All right, now let's bring these dudes together just a little bit more. Get them spaced evenly. Can't tell I'm no expert at this, but there are some things that I have found over the years that are going to make these things look a little bit more correct. So this one over here on the left-hand side, I don't like that it's completely empty over there. I think it's a missed opportunity. I'm just going to lead all this out. And we're going to give it a smaller version of what we've been seeing. Okay, there we go. We got our windows. They're all on the same layer. Now we're just going to duplicate this down. And duplicate again. I don't think we're ever going to see all these. There it goes. So that building's starting to come together in a really nice way. We've got some extra little detail going on with the piping along the edge. Man. When I was sketching out those first two drawings on Saturday night, I ran out of steam, and I knew I needed to be able to complete the rest of this for you guys as an example. I really don't like the way this one is bulging right here. All right, there we go. Works better for me. All right. Let's give this guy just some more interest. And let's not forget about our signage over the top of the roof. So I'm not going to sit there and try to write the lettering out myself. Make it black. And let's find a good, definitely not Comic Sans. That'll work. Big, thick lettering. Make it just a little bit taller. And we want it to go in front of the signage. I think that'll work pretty well. All right. Let's go in here and change the color to a gray. Give it an outline. Color overlay. Nope, stroke. A little bit of thickness. That'll work well for me. Go in and let's rasterize type. Rasterize the layer style. Okay. And now I'm going to cut out, holding down Shift, each one of these pieces. There we go. So now we've got the outlines of some nice letters, and we are off to the races to be able to paint this stuff in. The first thing I want to do is round out this lettering. Let's go in and trace around it. Give it some 3D-ness, some thickness. That'll work for me. And let's give them some bulbs. That works. Again, thickness. Just sort of making up some other shapes on the inside of there, just to be able to break it up a little bit more cleanly. Let's go ahead and start joining these letters together. Oops. Let's give them some thickness on the outside. Maybe important. There we go. And taking the time to be able to create the details like this, really going to go a long ways to making your city feel full and vibrant. Now, if I was doing this without line work, then I'd be doing the flat color around the outside of all of this thing and building my layers up. For this case, it's going to be, I think, a little bit faster for me to have the support of the lines when I go through and start coloring this thing in. There we go. Let's zoom out, have a look at it. Yeah, feels good to me. I like where that's showing up within the actual shot. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording here for a moment and recording transcribe, stop recording. And I'm going to take a 10-minute break, give myself getting in a bit of a run. Let's see, there it goes. Cool. Now let's get back and attack this crane. I've had a little bit of a break. I'm starting to get worn out after when I was drawing before. And that's okay, man. It's all right to get a little bit tired when you're doing this type of stuff. So we got one open break, lines going across it. Looks like we've got horizontal lines as well on this one. So I'm going to try and implement that same structure throughout here. So how to do that? We've got some perspective that's happening within this. So let's start right in the middle. Oh, wrong layer. Like that doesn't feel quite right. All right, so those are going to be my perspective lines moving down through this thing. And I want to keep my spacing. Yeah, spacing feels good to me on the lines. That was the hard part there. So let's go in and just do my horizontals going straight across. Excuse me, I've got a dog that wants to go outside right now. All right, and back. Sorry about that. Cool, so that's looking good for me. Let's establish some lines moving through this. 1, 2, 3, and we can get one more in as we get tighter. So just for the sake of coloring this, to make my life a little bit easier, put up in between each one of these lines. If I do this now, save myself a lot of trouble later on. While it's working, same thing. These lines, let's just open those up. Cool. Cool. So when we look at these things, got urban arrow going across each one of them. And the arrow connects left and right. Okay. Weird. I'm holding down shift to be able to do this. This is where those reference images really come into play, man. And I want to stress to all you guys, please, use these reference images heavily. Use them for the lighting, use them for the details that you're pulling into your scene. Most of you guys have never done an urban environment like this. And the jungle scene that we start off with is difficult enough, but there are all the amount of man-made details that happen within these these urban environments. There's so much going on, and you really got to be looking at the way that the exposed wiring, the not just telephone poles, but the air conditioning units. The signage, the old posters, there's all kinds of little details that make these spaces actually feel alive and lived in. The last thing we want to do is that you turn this in and it looks like it is just the most sterile city in the entire world that isn't actually an active urban metropolis that people live, right? People produce trash, they produce, junk. There's going to be a story that's being told within this city of other people that have inhabited it in the past and that have come beforehand. Sometimes you can see buildings that used to have an entryway that got bricked up, or some windows that got bricked up and covered, and that helps to tell the story of how that building what its history is. If it's here in America and it's 200 or so years old. There we go. Starting to bisect those shapes in a strong way. Let's do the same thing. Just finding my middle point each time. I feel so weird. But that's what I was seeing in the reference image. Maybe it'll make sense. All right. I called it right. That dog definitely needed to come back inside. So now that we've got that set up, let me think. I'm on the fence about whether or not I should do the back line to this thing. I think for the most part, it's reading. We get the idea for what it is. I think if I added the true structure to it, right? So when we're looking at 3D objects, when we look over here on the left-hand side, we can see that it does have the back line. It's got some other little janky stuff that's starting to mix in here. And then we've got all this as well. But visually, all of that really is an absolute mess. It's not that beautiful. It doesn't look that good to our eyes, and it's becoming sort of too visually heavy. And I think if I draw all that stuff inside of there, that this is going to become too visually heavy for us to look at, and I really don't want that to happen. So I go in here. Oops, give me 1 second. All right, so that's working pretty well. Now for this one, let's do this one more traditionally. From the corners, moving across. I think that's the shape that our brains expect to see. In a space like this. All right, so just to be able to clean it up just a little bit more, what I'm going to do is go inside here. Those two lines. So it's a little bit easier to color, so I don't have to select 4 different parts or pieces. Doing a little bit of work for myself in the future, for future will. Okay. Yeah, I could do the back lines on it, but I don't think I want to. I think it's doing visually what it's supposed to, and I'm more interested in seeing the buildings move behind this open space. I think that's where the sell and the interest from the shot comes from. So let's leave that tower alone for right now. I just all right. Let's give it a color. We're going to name some of these. Not that this is probably going to get messed up later on. All right, so there's my building being built. Now that we've got this in here, So this one is going on top. I'm going to do one more layer behind this. And this is something that you might have to do from time to time within your scenes or within your shots, is creating this sort of sandwich effect. So we're going to give just a little bit of space. I want this to live right in the middle between these two frames. Let's get it a little bit tighter. There we go. So this represents the back of the beams behind the building. There we go. So this is going to allow me to be able to sandwich my the crane in the middle and give just a little bit of offset, a little bit of space in between these two pieces. I think it's going to work. And then we're not really going to see any of it towards the middle beam. It's not as big of a deal. Okay. Yellow. Save out. And now I'm going to take these two layers, drop down their visibility so that they fade into the background so that I can continue working over here to the left-hand side through the center buildings in this section. So I'm going to start drawing some fresh buildings in here. I'm moving quite a bit further away within my shot. So we're going to keep the, going to go behind the Porto building. There we go. Want my line width to be a little bit bigger. I'm going to let this dog back in real quick and then start looking at some reference images to figure out what the buildings behind the construction site would look like. I got one idea. Excuse me. I got one idea right now is I want to do a billboard. I remember doing billboards and getting some signage within the shots was a big deal to me. I was concepting this. I want to use the same font. That'll work. Center it. So that'll look pretty interesting. I think hanging off the edge of one of the buildings. We'll do a billboard up on top of one also. So I'm going to go in, double click it, color overlay. Let's give it a stroke. Feels good to me. Now we're going to rasterize type, rasterize the layer style, and I'm going to cut out the red. There we go. So got a little bit of the red hanging on along the edges. But for now, we can just go to image adjustments. Desaturate. We won't be able to see it for now. Cool. So that feels good to me. Let's give it a shape. All right, now we're ready to draw. Get the cruise. A little bit of thickness. And we need a line inside of here. Holding down shift. There we go. It's going to hurt my hand later on. coloring this stuff in, but that's okay. There we go. So that feels pretty good. And now let's attach it to the side of the building. Let's figure out what my building's going to look like now. Let's get some building structures to go behind all this stuff. And let's not forget about the billboard as well. So there's that. Leave that there for now. Let's go in and let's construct this billboard somewhere also. Straight down. So now I can start playing and giving some idea of how my perspective is going to work inside of here. Edit, transform, and skew. Control T. Make it just a little bit smaller. Make it a little bit taller. That works for me. All right, there's our billboard. That feels pretty good. The amount of detail on it. Let's get some building references. All right, so we got our cranes established. I don't really need to see that one anymore. That's got some good buildings in it. Looking for just variety here. And then I found this one from one of the Spider-Man games. That's what gave me the idea for the billboard originally. So for now, let's pause on the cruise, turn him off, and let's do this building. Thought this was cool that it had the circular elements to it, but also the way that it's sort of structured with the the backside there. Thought that was nice. So with this building, we're going to start real broad. Don't forget that'll work for me. Don't really want to be able to see the top of this building. Go in, let's get the top here. There we go. So I want to keep with this sort of industrial height slope to it. That'll work. And we've got a patio down here. That'll work well for me. It's going to be the building corner. This one right there. There we go. Got it. Let's go in a little bit closer. You can see some of my lines are starting to get a little bit messy here. I'm going to clean that up. And let's just produce. Okay. Save. Scratch this is full. Great. All right. Purge. All. For me, let's give this one a little roof as well. And chimney. Uh-oh. There we go. It's gonna get annoying. What I'm trying to do here is just create the illusion of detail within this space. Oh, man. All right, this is getting worse. Well, you can see that that building is on its way there. I've probably got one building in front to do that's going to take up a lot of space over here. So we're not going to see too much of the backside of this thing. And then probably another layer of buildings just behind it. And then I'm going to start on the main skyline stuff. It's going to build up into this triangle over here. So that's where I'm heading to next with this thing. Let's pause it for now and see what I can do about clearing up some memory or turning off my Dropbox so this computer isn't quite giving me so much trouble.